folks, my name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. We are going to be talking to Nickolas today. Nickolas is a person that I met just a few minutes ago, actually, but we met online through a website, and it's amazing how he's gone through. Well, you know what? How about this? How about if we bring him on the show and we'll talk about the details about this whole entire show, and I'm very excited about it. That's why I don't want to say anything. So Nickolas, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm honored to be here. This is really exciting. And that's right. We met online, and that's the beauty of the internet, bringing people together through technology. It's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get into the details of what we're going to talk about, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Back to Basics means to me is not overcomplicating things. I think in today's age, there's a tendency for us to overthink. There's so many options with option overload. We can choose to do anything at any time, and we can be distracted by anything at any time. So it's healthy and smart to take a step back, reflect on things, and figure out if we can simplify things. I think something else that I've learned recently, that essentialism is a skill. Right? Like taking all of the things in our lives and examining them in a way to say, are all of these things beneficial? Are all of these things a priority? Do all of these things deserve my time? And most of the time, it's not, right? We can actually say, I'm spending so much time doing not the wrong thing, but maybe not the most important thing.
Yeah.
So taking it back to the basics is focusing on what is most important to us right now. What's the most important next step?
Yeah, thank you again, Nickolas, for answering that simple question that I ask every guest of mine. So thank you again for that. And I asked you this question, the same question online, and the answer that I got from you is, if you don't mind, can I read that line for you from what you said? You've said,
absolutely,
locking in on what you know to be true. That's quite profound. So thank you again for answering that question too at the same time. So
yeah.
So you know, I was reading your profile, and you said that you lived in a car for 3 years, paid off $60,000 debt in 11 months, and failure in business, and then you went from having A to Z course on personal finance, and then now I think you're also an actor. So can you please explain all that? That's like it's like one bitten sentence without me breathing. So please explain, if you don't mind, if it is okay with you, because I know it's a very hurtful situation what you've gone through, but people should understand that you know, in hardships, when you go rock bottom, sometimes there must be some trigger and some motivation to get where you are today. So can you explain that? Yeah,
absolutely. I think for me, there came this point of obsession. So I went to college. I graduated a year early with the thought in mind that I don't want to come out of college with so much debt. I knew that I was going to a university that was expensive. I went to a private university at the time. I think it was $42,000 or $43,000 a year. I got half of that paid for with scholarships, graduated early, and I still came out with $60,000. I remember looking at the tab my senior year and being like, I can't believe that this is a real number that I'm going to have to deal with. And that's kind of when the story starts of me trying to think of ways, how can I get rid of this massive amount of debt? And slowly the idea was being tossed out there almost as a joke. Like, what if I moved into a car? You know, what if I just cut out all of my expenses and shacked up in a car? And next thing I know, my sibling's dad had a 1986 Chevy Suburban, and he gave me this deal. He was like, if you're really gonna live in this, I will give you this truck for free if you live in it, which is a crazy proposition, you know, to be faced with. And now all of a sudden this became a real thing for me. So my brother and I, we turned it into this makeshift camper converter. Nothing like what you see on Instagram, just bare bones. And when I say bare bones, I mean, we try to put in the swivel chair in the driver's seat so I could turn around and hang out with people if people wanted to visit while I lived in the car. And we welded this massive hole in the bottom of it that we could not fix. And it just shot hot air up while you would drive, and it would let all the cold air in when you were trying to sleep. And that was the journey there from paying it off, making a course, and then acting's always been something that I've really been drawn to. So there's a quick synopsis of where it began.
Sure,
Maybe
sure,
we'll go
yeah.
from there.
So this is more of a challenge than living in a car for 3 years. Is that what it is?
It was it was it was an incredible challenge in the fact that I didn't know this until I was about 6 months into living in the Suburban. My family was placing bets on how long they thought I would last, and the longest one was 30 days. And it was a challenge. I think some of the biggest challenges that are notable are one, finding a safe place to sleep every night was tiresome, and also I was staying in an area that wasn't all that great. The next thing was I was suffering from malnutrition because I was eating so little to save on expenses so I could put it toward my debt. And then finally, I worked for the Department of Defense, and they did not like the fact that I live in my car, and they launched an investigation against me with the intention of saying, we think this guy is a bum stealing from the government. And they audited everything I had ever done, and it was a really trying time for sure.
Yeah, of course, of course. So let me ask you this. Now we've gone through that journey of living in the car for 3 years, okay? But the 60K that you had your student loan on, have you not thought of paying it off with, like, say, 3 or 4 credit cards, or maybe just buy a house and put it into a mortgage so then you can live better? Don't you think that would be logical? Well, I mean, what was going through that mind of yours when that, was there a thought on like that, or was there a plan like that?
You know, I was pretty green to the finance world. I mean, I also took 60,000 out with. I was at the age where I don't think I understood how much money that really was, and yeah, I think there would have been a lot of better ways, or maybe better is not the right word. There's a lot of alternative ways that could have had the same results. But the only thing I knew at the time was work hard and pay it off.
Sure.
And that's what I did, 60 to 8 hour weeks. But I do think now that I've like studied personal finance and that I've learned more about it, I am not against putting debt on a 0% APR credit card if you have the promise to ourselves that we're actually going to pay it off. I think sometimes debt consolidation feels, or like even transferring it to a 0% APR feels like, oh yeah, I did something great, but it's like you still have all that debt that you have to pay back. Now it's just in a different place.
Of course.
So it's definitely would have been a good option for sure.
The reason why I'm asking is because I've noticed in the last couple of years that schools are forcing kids in 9th grade to take personal finance, because then they should know that when you're going to be a bankrupt, or when you're going to go and make money, or if you get $100, you're not spending $200. Does that make sense? So I guess at your time and my time, I guess the system was kind of broken, that we were not taught from school. I think life has kind of taught us that. Don't you think you would have taken benefits out of that? Or now you're taking extra courses just to learn personal finance. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think personal finance needs to be taught in our education system a lot earlier than it is. Because when you think about it, like even in investing beyond like living below your means, it's the crux of it all, living below your means so you can have some money left over. But even investing, like the power of compound growth, if we had high school kids that were able to have their parents open a custodial IRA for them, or even a Roth IRA as soon as they turned 18, that time is so precious to start investing. And I mean, I'm grateful in my story, you know, that I had this terrible experience that was like forcing me to learn. But there's many of us that never do,
Right.
that never grasp compound growth or grasp the importance of getting in the market early. So I 100% agree that our education system, there would be a lot more well-off people if these things were taught in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. So, what are the three quick things, if you can just guide us or guide the youngsters nowadays, that what they should be looking for? Obviously, they are already having personal finance from school, but there might be something else that they're missing and that you have gone through. Can you guide any of us with three major points that you should be looking out for, or what plannings you should do?
Hmm. Yeah, I think the three big things are, of course, live below your means, like I said. The second thing would be invest early and often. I don't think $5 is a insignificant amount. If you have extra money, be sure to throw it into your investments. And the last thing I would say is check out index funds, low expense index funds. And the reason I would say, or an index fund that follows the S&P 500. And the reason I would say that over any other investment is, of course, you can have tax breaks depending on what account it is. But over all of the history of the S&P 500, the annualized rate of return has been around 10.5% year over year. And that's just incredible. You know, you can't beat that. And the difference between an index fund and the mutual funds, outside of they're both typically performing better than single stock investments, is that index funds are passively managed. So unlike a mutual fund where there's somebody in there making the decisions for us, you can cut a big expense by going into an index fund where it's automatically going to invest to follow an index. And those low fees and those low ratios are what's going to help give you more gain in the long run. You know, I think fees are the killer of good investments. So if I was a young person starting over today, I would, one, budget meticulously so I ensure that I'm living below my means, you know, tracking all of my expenses. Every time money comes out or anytime money comes in, I better know both. And then I'd be sure to create an account that's going to give you, like a Roth IRA, that's going to give you the tax benefit, especially if you're young. Maxing out a Roth IRA with $6,000 a year is doable and incredibly valuable in the long run. So I think that was about three. I hope. I think that was right at the three
Yes,
mark.
I think you are. You are. So let me ask you this, and this is people are asking in many different ways, and I'm pretty sure you know you're not an expert, but you have some idea. So I just want to make it clear for everybody here that he's not an expert, but he has his own opinions too, and everyone should have their own opinions. So let me ask you this. If I save money for my kids and have an IRA for the kids or index, as you mentioned, or anything like that, right? That's more of an asset for the kid. Now, for example, if they go to college and apply for a loan, they're going to have a loan declined, right? So it's a catch-22. So should we save or should we not save because of the loans that we're not going to get then?
Interesting. That's a fascinating question. I think there's a couple ways to go about it. I think investing for our kids is always an important thing. Whether there's a couple accounts that you can invest in, or there's three different types of accounts you can invest in for your kids. I'm not going to remember all of them off the top of my head.
Of course.
But one of them is mainly just for college funds, like only the money can be put toward a college fund. Another one is it can only be like it can be invested in and only the child can spend it when they turn 18. And the last one is we can always just give a gift up to $11 million. So what do I think? I also think that another crux to lie on is try not to take out loans. I think that's been the biggest fault of my personal finance career is had I been smarter and wiser going into college, knowing that there are alternative options outside of getting a loan, I think I would have been better off, 2 or 3 years better off.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that they just paid off their student loan after 20 years.
Oh.
There has been people that they paid off in 3 years. There has been people who have been paid off in 10 years. So I think the reason why I say that and different, they're different ones, right, is because I guess spend more, live better, and easier life. I mean, it all depends on what your needs are and your wants are, right? If you want to, if you are stuck on a certain monthly every year, then I think paying off would be a little tough. But then I think if you spend less and have no monthlies, then you can pay off easily, right?
Yeah, the lower we can make our expenses, the easier all of our obligations become. And I think there's something that's getting lost is delayed gratification in our current age of, and it could just be the technology that we consume. We love instant gratification,
Sure.
but as soon as we are able to differentiate, of course, the wants and the needs, what's actually a luxury and what's actually necessary, things become a lot easier. And in my case, I think now, in retrospect, it's probably too extreme for most, but I proved to myself what I think is a necessity and what actually is were two very different things. I started viewing sleeping inside no longer as like a necessity, but like this is amazing when I get to.
Of course.
And I think after I moved out of the burb, I've been able to hold on to that, not essentially minimalism, but the mindset that to have a fulfilling life, I don't need to buy everything that I want.
Of course.
And I think that's helped.
Of course, yeah. So, Nickolas, thank you again for that. Now that you understand the personal finance course, so what are you doing nowadays? And then let's get into acting, if you don't mind. So, what type of acting have you gone into, or filmmaking? Explain that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, yeah. I've done a handful of things. I've been in a few short films. I've made a few short films, and the most consistent work that I get is in digital ads and commercials. I've found that for me, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to approach the film industry, but for me, every set that I'm on where I'm acting, there's only so much control that I can have over the set. And I'm a person that loves creative control. So what I've realized is if I'm able to take my own script and get my own friends, that we all have our own equipment, we come together and we make a short film, there's much more power in that than as an actor, and maybe the actors listening can relate to this, of auditioning. Maybe you get the part, sometimes you do. And if you get the part, you can't guarantee that the set you're going on is going to be a healthy, fun set. There's times where it's not. There's times where the leadership is poor. And I think that's been the biggest lesson for me as an actor and as a filmmaker is make your own films, make your own content. It's the best way to hone your craft. And it's the best way to gain, to legitimize, I don't think that's a real word, to make yourself more established in the industry.
Of course. We can make any word in this show. I've made plenty of words which makes zero sense, and people, they said, okay, we're adapting that word. So no
Let's
issues.
add that one to the dictionary. It's called Webster.
Thank you. So, is there any movies or short movies that you can name that you have been part of that we can take a look at?
Yes, I think one that's going to be coming out in the next 2 months ish is Vintage. It's one that I made for myself, and I'm happy to shoot you the link. It's about this guy who is moving out or moving into his apartment, and he's going through his boxes, and he opens up this box that's full of memories, his sentimental things, and he listens to this song on his old iPod, and it gives him a flashback to the time that he was unfortunately rejected by his crush. And it's a comedy. It's a short film comedy, but that's one that would be one to look out for. Do you have any skin in the game in the acting world, in the entertainment world?
No, I guess Nickolas, if I'm gonna say this is the audition for me to be on your show, Do let me know, because I have done a lot of stage shows when it comes to dancing and performing back in my young days. So that stage shows are very common for me, and there's no surprise there. And people, for many, many years in New Jersey, people know me when it comes to that. And I've done radio jockey back in my days. So obviously now I have a podcast. If this is my audition, here's my audition.
Deal. Maybe I'll send you a script after this. We'll get the
Absolutely,
self-tape
absolutely,
going.
absolutely. Thank you
That's
so much.
awesome.
So Nickolas, before you leave Back to Basics, explain to us, how was your journey on Back to Basics, and any last words that you have for anyone regarding your journey?
What a great question. My journey of Back to Basics is a never-ending pursuit, honestly. And I think something that I've learned and taken with me is that experimentation is a good thing. And for example, I'll give you an example. This may not be the best example in the world, but it's the one I got ready. I've always been curious and fascinated by how in different points of the day, we are at different productivity levels. And for some people, they get sluggish in the afternoon, and other people, they're highly productive in the morning, all that sort of deal. And I've tried all these different sleep cycles. I've tried the dual sleep cycle. I've tried, waking up extra early, like they say, and I've tried waking up, at the right time. And what I found is, had I stuck with one that I thought was going to be the best without trying anything else, I would have never have learned what my true productive hours were. And the point that I'm making is that if you don't try, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't do things that are scary, if you don't experiment with what you believe to be the best thing, it's going to be really hard to grow. And the other thing that I would like to say to the audience is, no matter where you're feeling or how you're feeling or where you're at, know that you're loved, know that you do have a purpose in this world, and that your life has value. I think there's times where the rubber hits the road, things are tough, we don't feel our best, and we feed ourselves lies that we're not enough, or we're not valued enough, or nobody cares. But that's not true. So hold on to hope, do big things, do things that scare you, and change the world.
Of course, of course. Yeah, Nickolas, thank you again for coming on the show and making this brighter for me, and supporting this small podcast of mine. And it's great that you're here, and learned a lot of things from me, I'll tell you that. So thank you again. I hope others will learn the same way as I did.
I'm grateful that you allowed me to come on. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you again, Nickolas, for coming on here, and hopefully you'll come back again. So thank you again.
Anytime.
So guys, we spoke with Nickolas today, and we talked about the basics of life, actually. We talked about the hardships of what he has gone through. He's talked about the financials of what we should do from his point of view. And it's always good to learn from one another. He's not an expert on finance, but he's one thing that from his hardship, he's telling you his experiences. We should learn from other people's experiences for sure. As usual, as always, there's a quote for the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully Nickolas will like that. And the quote of the day is, "Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship." Who's the ship? I think you are. Where's the leak? You figure that out, of where the leak is. And that's your success. Just keep on going. That's all we want. As usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Keep on commenting as much as you can on every episode of mine, because your comment is so important for me, for positive and negative. Either way, it'll make my show stronger. And there are three things makes this show a successful: the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I will see you next week. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
Relief from the things that bother them, by doing it, working on it themselves, or working on it in groups, facilitate conversations with groups. So I have been exploring by myself and with colleagues and with friends a lot of different ways in which we can do it ourselves. And I really like the idea of transmitting that experience to people so that other people can also explore, ways to be more of who they are meant to be.
Yeah. Thank you again, Serge, for explaining that. So now, now that we did the pause, now let's go to the active, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So now the next question is, if a couple walks down the street